Release you his whole schedule. And that way, the other plan, সামনে রোববার কলকাতা যাচ্ছি, and আগে পরিষ্কার করে দেবো। Also, the best thing is, you have a son number, directly call him. God is cell. He is very isolated. Shri Ramakrishna brought the celebrations. Celebration. No. Celebration. Move it there. Devashish, come into the first row. Please come. Shravani. Push, sit. First row. Push. ফুল চার্জ দিচ্ছি, একদম লাস্টে দেবো।
So my message is
Okay.
WhatsApp details पूरा party is my message.
Very good. Thank you. I will show you our shrine.
अच्छा महाराज. ভিডিওটা দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, মানে ভিডিও পজ বলে দেখাচ্ছে। না মানে এবার দেখতে পাচ্ছি। নাইস মানে।
Thank you and goodbye.
We can touch to do.
Good morning, dear devotees and friends. Most welcome to this Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna's Titi Puja celebration. I start little late thinking that before we all will come. They calculate that when Swamiji will start, then we'll come. So, but anyway, I always feel happy that you people always come. Don't come for Swami Ishatmananda, come for Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna. And come little early. The more you are early, more you are sitting with Sri Ramakrishna, more you are praying to him, more you are getting the benefit. But as usual, when the puja is going on, the ritualistic puja, mostly we won't be able to understand actually what they are doing, different type of things that they, so that will be difficult for us. So what we do, particularly here in Chicago, Vedanta Society, and this is my practice from Andaman, because I saw in Andaman, when the puja is going on, one gentleman is reading the newspaper. I told sir, puja is going on, but I can't understand what they are doing, so I am finishing my morning newspaper. Okay. So from then onwards, I thought I should engage the devotees. So you should also go on chanting the name of God, listening to about Him, along with the puja going on. I believe, I really need 100% I believe, when 100 people are sitting together and praying to the same God, God appears. Because Sri Ramakrishna himself said, that where many people they gather, and when they pray to God, God appears over there. How you will understand that? You will feel the blessedness, happiness, free from all anxieties. So those are the things. Some people, even in that, if they are not feeling happy, and then little jealousy, that is their problem. It will take some time for them to overcome that, to purify the mind. Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna said, the blessings is constantly flowing, and it is transforming even the ordinary people. But sometimes it is not possible even for the God, because of the very, very bad karma of that person. We pray for them. But let us take this opportunity to bless ourselves. The human life we do not know. Whether next life we will be human or not. But this life at least, we have got the human body, mind, and also the thought that there is God. There is someone that who can take us beyond all suffering. And what is the suffering? Birth and death, constantly going on. So we like to go beyond that. So at least 1 or 1.5 hours when we are here, let us concentrate on Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, and let us to please chant along with me the pranam mantra of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna and also the dhyana mantra. Dhyana means meditation. Please repeat after me. I think it's supposed to be the first page, but it has become second page when we were speaking. Please repeat after me. Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Rita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamityam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama Niranjanam, no blemish is there. As because he was not having any desire, so free from all blemishes. So Niranjanam, Nityam, eternal, Ananta Rupam, so many varieties of forms. And Bhaktanukampa, this God who is supreme, he has taken the human form, this time as Sri Ramakrishna. Why? To bless the devotees. Who are devotees? Who believe in the existence of God. And that is why he has taken Dita Vigraham Vai. He is the Isha Avatar, Supreme Lord. I am bound down to him, the Tom Ramakrishna, Shirasa Namama. The head is bound down. Next is Sarvo Dharma Sthapakastam Sarva Dharma Swarupakaha Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishnayate Namaha. A third one, Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarva dharma swarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishnayate Namaha. Now this is the meditation that we do on Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, and they are describing in this way. You also please repeat after me. Hridaya Kamala Madhye Rajitam Nirvikalpam Sadasadakhila Vedatita Ekaswarupam Prakriti Vikriti Shunnam Nityamanandamurtim Vimala Paramahamsam Ramakrishna bhajamah. Nirupamamati sukshmam Nishpapancham niriham Gagana sadrisham isham Sarvabhutadivasam Trigunarahitam Satchit Brahma Rupam Varinyam Vimala Paramahamsam Ramakrishnam bhajamah. Vitaritum avatirnam Jnana Bhakti Prashantihi Pranaya Galita Chityam Jiva Dukkha Sahishnam Drita Sahaja Samadhim Chinmayam Komalangam Vimala Paramahamsam Ramakrishnam bhajamah. Vimala Paramahamsam Ramakrishnam bhajamah. Friends, as always, we try to invite some of the new thoughts among our devotees, and this time 4 speakers will be there, and I now invite our Arpita Ghosh to as an MC, and she will take care from now onwards. Arpita.
Namaskar and good morning to everyone gathered here. We will start today's event offering our pranam to Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sri Sharada Devi, Swami Vivekananda and Swami Ishatmananda Ji Maharaj. On this sacred occasion of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna's birthday, we gather in devotion and gratitude. May Thakur's grace illuminate our minds and hearts this morning. Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna said, as many faiths, so many paths. In that same spirit of harmony, we will now listen to 4 unique paths of understanding offered in devotion to him. This morning, we will hear 4 personal reflections on Sri Ramakrishna as I think of him. Each speaker will briefly share how Thakur's life and teachings have touched their own journey. Our first speaker is Mr. Debashish Banerjee. He resides in Detroit and brings over 15 years of leadership and management consulting, most recently as the partner and senior director at Gartner Consulting and Deloitte. He recently founded his own consulting firm after more than 35 years in corporate life. Mr. Banerjee comes from a family closely associated with the Ramakrishna mission for over 2 generations. His grandparents, father and uncle were disciples of Swami Ishatmananda, founder of the Ramakrishna Ashram in Allahabad. 2 of his father's younger brothers later embraced monastic life in the Ramakrishna order. Let's invite Mr. Banerjee to share his thoughts.
Okay. Namaskar. I would like to start by conveying my pranams to Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sharada Devi, and Swami Vivekananda. My pranams to Swami Ishatmananda, and namaskars and pranams to all the devotees here. I have known Sri Ramakrishna all my life. However, my understanding of his identity has evolved over the years, as can be expected. I recall the picture of Sri Ramakrishna in our home and in my father's paternal home. In fact, that was a life-size picture at the entrance. So you would not enter the house, you would see Sri Ramakrishna when you entered the house, and you would see him when you left. It is not surprising because, as was mentioned earlier, my father and grandparents, my uncle, they were devoted followers of Sri Ramakrishna, and they were also disciples of Swami Vivekananda, who was a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, and also was the architect and oversaw the construction of the famous temple at the Prelude. My uncles, my father's two youngest brothers, both became monks. In fact, the day that they graduated from college, they approached their mother and said, "You don't have to look for our brides or worry about our life and our journey through life. We have both made the decision to become monks in the Ramakrishna mission." Over the years, I have been inspired to learn about how they conducted their lives and their contributions to the mission. I credit my mother, who passed away a couple of years ago, with inculcating the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and the Holy Mother into every part of my daily life. Over the last few years, I have realized that the opportunity to have been associated with Sri Ramakrishna and the mission and all the things that the Ramakrishna mission does is something very special to me and to my family. My understanding of Sri Ramakrishna became more defined after my initiation from Swami Ishatmananda of the Hollywood Vedanta Society, as I started reading more about his life and the lives of the Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, and of course Sri Ramakrishna, and all of his direct disciples and Holy Mother's direct disciples. Who is Sri Ramakrishna? The internet, especially the Wikipedia, identifies Sri Ramakrishna as a mystic. However, based on my study of his life and my experiences, I have always known Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation who took on a human form to demonstrate through his practices the path to realizing the universal God through bhakti and through love. Not only was Sri Ramakrishna an incarnation, his most loved disciple, Sri Swami Vivekananda, proclaimed Sri Ramakrishna as the most accomplished incarnation, or avatar varishthaya. It is reasonable to expect that a loving disciple would claim that their guru is the most accomplished. However, we do know enough about Swami Vivekananda to be certain that he would not make such a proclamation unless he was convinced himself beyond doubt. The prime reason why Sri Ramakrishna is recognized as the most accomplished incarnation is because, unlike his predecessors, Sri Ramakrishna did not have to vanquish any demons, he did not have to show any skills of war or any occult powers or miracles to demonstrate to human beings that he was God himself. He employed pure love as his weapon to attract human beings from far and wide into his orbit. Sri Swami Vivekananda summed it up in the following words: Sri Ramakrishna was love personified. Sri Ramakrishna's teachings were simple, practical and easy to comprehend by everyone. His teachings were fit for the folks of the time whose thoughts and ideas were getting more and more influenced by modern education in the sciences, philosophy, and art, and were becoming more and more skeptical of ritualistic religious practices. It appealed to the wealthy and to the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the spiritual and non-spiritual, the religious and non-religious, both monks and householders alike. Sri Ramakrishna was the bearer of the idea that God could be with form and formless in a world where faith and religion were in decline and under assault by the ideas of the time and age that had eroded folks' belief in India's religious heritage. His ideas started to appeal to intellectuals and educated folks when Sri Ramakrishna cited the scientific phenomenon of water and its existence in vapor, liquid, and solid forms in response to the claim that God could only be worshipped in form or formless. Sri Ramakrishna did not demonstrate his spiritual powers through miracles. His work was performed through ideas and inspiration to his followers. In fact, he discouraged his followers and disciples from performing spiritual discipline with the goals of seeking occult powers due to such pursuits being roadblocks to God realization. Sri Ramakrishna has always appealed to me due to his simple, childlike simplicity, his use of parables, and citing examples from everyday life to illustrate complex spiritual principles. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the holy book that all of you devotees are familiar with, is full of such short stories and references that make his teachings easy to grasp and internalize. I will dwell on Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation by going back on my take that the dictionary definition of the word incarnation is the divine taking on a human form, representing the ultimate essential union. For example, Jesus Christ was an incarnation of God. Sri Rama was Sri Vishnu's incarnation on earth. One of the well-known verses in the Bhagavad Gita refers to the phenomenon of the timing of the birth of incarnations when religion and its seekers are in danger or in decline. Similarly, the timing of Sri Ramakrishna's birth offers further evidence to support the belief that he is an incarnation. In 1895, Lord Macaulay, a British diplomat, published a report to the British Parliament that made 3 recommendations for British rule in India that would define the East India Company's policies in India for the next century. First, promote English as the medium of higher education in India, that no British funds should be used to promote classical Sanskrit or Arabic learning, and promote Western science and literature as being superior to traditional Indian knowledge systems in the education system. The goal of these policies was to create a class of persons, Indian in blood and color, but English in tastes, opinions, and morals, and intellect. The result of these policies was the creation of a generation of Indian intellectuals who adopted and promoted the Western ways of thinking and beliefs and shunned Indian religious traditions and practices. Sri Ramakrishna's birth a year later in 1836, just a year after the British diplomat's report to the British Parliament, was as a result of the following divine events. While Sri Ramakrishna's father, Khudiram Chattopadhyay, was on a holy pilgrimage to Gaya, Sri Vishnu appeared in his dream to convey that he would take birth in the form of his son. At the same time, Sri Ramakrishna's mother, Chandramani Devi, had a divine experience in the form of a light entering her being from the image of the local Shiva Linga in the local temple. Soon afterwards, she felt that she was carrying a child. Similar to the births of Sri Krishna, Jesus Christ, Sri Ramakrishna's birth is categorized as a divine event that cannot be explained in normal human terms. However, my belief in Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation of God are based on the following arguments. First, we need to have faith in the path, the journey, and the destination. That is the foundation of every successful pursuit in life. Second, the knowledge that the purest souls with the brightest intellects who were handpicked by Sri Ramakrishna as his disciples, who had the opportunity to live with him in close communion and were encouraged to test him and confirm his teachings for themselves before accepting him as their master. Third, the fact that Sri Ramakrishna's closest disciple, Swami Vivekananda, himself proclaimed that he was the most accomplished incarnation. That is the final proof point for me, that Sri Ramakrishna is Avatar Varishtha, or the most accomplished incarnation. Sri Ramakrishna himself stated his identity in the final moments of his life in the following terms. That who was Rama, that who was Krishna, is embodied in this body as Ramakrishna. An important attribute of Sri Ramakrishna's teachings is for the seeker to recognize that one's ego is the biggest roadblock to the realization of the ultimate truth. Sri Ramakrishna's teachings state that every human being is born with an ego and performs behaviors that are inherited from their past lives. Seekers of God realization need to redirect this ego towards the acceptance of God as the all-pervading and all-powerful being, and their own self either as a child of God or as the servant of God. To illustrate this point, Sri Ramakrishna always projected himself as an egoless persona and always referred to himself as this, pointing to his own self as a subject, never an object of me or an I. In his first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda poses the question, have you seen God? Sri Ramakrishna responds definitively that God can be seen more clearly than he has seen, that he could see Swami Vivekananda, and that one can experience God's presence and have conversations with him. In my limited study of spirituality, I have not seen any other incarnation having made such a clear claim about the vision of God. Sri Ramakrishna's life was at a time of great disillusionment among the folks in India about their own religion, Hinduism, that had been driven by over 500 years of combined Muslim and British rule. Hinduism had broken society into castes and sects. The British had adopted an approach of replacing traditional Indian teachings with Western texts and ways of life, with Western standards. Educated folks in Kolkata and elsewhere in India started learning and following Christian religious practices and were abandoning Hindu traditions of praying to God in various different names, shapes, and forms. Hinduism at that time was at a level of deep decay and corruption. Sri Ramakrishna's teachings served as a unifying force in rekindling Hinduism as the philosophy of life and a way of life for millions across India and later across nations worldwide. It has become the foundation for a universal religion that accepts God seekers from all walks of life without any discrimination and offers a path to spiritual realization. One aspect of Sri Ramakrishna's life and teachings that stands out is the fact that although he was not educated in the traditional institutions of learning, he quoted concepts from the Hindu scriptures like the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavata in simple, easy to grasp terms, stunning visitors and followers who were highly educated intellectuals. Anyone who came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna was captivated by his sweet personality, his intellect, his childlike innocence, and his simple and single-minded devotion to God. My influence on Sri Ramakrishna's life that has influenced me a lot is his ability to get samadhi. The state of samadhi is considered to be the highest spiritual state achievable by man, where the human mind and spirit are united with Brahman or God. Hindu religious texts state that a practitioner who attains the highest state of samadhi, called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, will give up their body in 21 days. Sri Ramakrishna was unique in attaining the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi at will, often many times a day. He would go into Samadhi at the mere mention of deities and incarnations such as Mother Kali, Sri Krishna, Sri Rama and Sri Chaitanya, and other spiritual figures, as well as when he visited auspicious places like temples or gardens. I would like to share a few teachings of Sri Ramakrishna that inspire me every day. The devotee should live in this world with his right hand on the feet of God and continue to conduct the business of life with his left hand. To realize God, one must retreat into solitude to seclude themselves from the noise of the world and perform spiritual practices and meditate on Him for periods of time from one day to a week. A religious seeker must practice spiritual disciplines in the privacy of their heart, in the forest, and in corners, far away from worldview. Sri Ramakrishna's teachings are the answers to humanity's blind pursuit of material values, enjoyment of the senses, and exercising power on other human beings. He demonstrated that renunciation is the only means of realizing the divinity that is inherent within all human beings. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna came to this world not for monks or for householders. He came to the world to help those who sincerely want to realize God. I close with the following impactful ideas distilled from my own journey in getting to know Sri Ramakrishna as my personal God. First, true belief and understanding of Sri Ramakrishna's teaching. Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. Brahman or God is the only reality. God is truly the one that is our very own. The world covered in Maya, experienced through our sense organs, eyes, nose, tongue, ears, and skin, is unreal. Second, the only purpose of human life is to realize God. Although all beings who reside on earth with us have consciousness, it is only humans who have the ability to contemplate on God and to realize Him. Third, most importantly, Anurag. Develop sincere, genuine, and heartfelt love for God. Fourth, Sharanagati. Cultivate complete surrender to Sri Ramakrishna on all fronts of life. I close with an inspiring quote from our very own revered Swami Ishatmananda. With each passing day, I realize I'm getting older. I feel increased urgency to practice japa, meditation, and spiritual practices so that I can get the vision of God in this life. My prayer to Sri Ramakrishna is to bless all his devotees so that we can make ourselves truly worthy of his grace. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, for sharing that inspiring personal journey. I now humbly request Swami Ishatmananda Maharaj to bless us by leading a group devotional song.
To the first page, the first song we'll sing together. Tumi Brahma Ramakrishna. Tumi Brahma Ramakrishna. Tumi Krishna, Tumi Ram. Tumi Brahma Ramakrishna. Tumi Vishnu, Tumi Jishnu, Prabhu Vishnu Pranaram. Tumi Adhe O Adhara, Tumi Brahma Nirakar. Tumi Brahma Ramakrishna. Tumi Nara Rupodhara, Vijita Kanaka Kam, Apara Karuna Sindhu, Tumi Deva Dinabandhu, Jachi Hindu Kripa Bindu, Charone Kori Pranam. Tumi Brahma Ramakrishna. Tumi Krishna, Tumi Ram. Tumi Brahma Ramakrishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Our second speaker is Miss Octavia Harriston. Octavia is a long-time student of Vedanta. In 1964, she and her family became members of the Vivekananda Vedanta Society of Chicago, then under leadership of Swami Ishatmananda, the second monk to head the Chicago Center. Octavia has served in many areas, from manager of the kitchen to vice president of the executive committee, organizing programs and activities in both Chicago and Ganges. Octavia has traveled extensively in India, visiting ashrams and temples from Haridwar in the north to Vivekananda Rock at the southernmost tip in Kanyakumari. She now resides in Chicago, continuing studies of the Vedas as embodied in the message and teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swami Vivekananda. Let's invite Octavia for sharing her thoughts.
When Octavia became the member, MC was not born.
Pranam to Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Vivekananda. I don't know where to begin. First of all, it is so moving for me to be here. And I am thankful that Swami Ishatmananda asked me to do this because it caused me to take some time and reflect on my journey over these years.
Can you bring the microphone a little closer to you?
What's with the microphone? Okay, can everyone hear me now? Can everyone hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. I will begin with when I first came to Sri Ramakrishna. But what I like to think is that I did not come to Sri Ramakrishna. He was not sitting there waiting for me to come and grace him with my presence. I say he came and got me. When it started, I was working with my guru, Swami Ishatmananda. I did his correspondence, all of his communications. In those days, I could type 80 words a minute, and I'd type his letters, put them to him, he'd sign them. And we were working in the office one day, and I remember we were back, he was on one side, I was on the other. And I said, Swami, I had a dream about Sri Ramakrishna last night. And I told him the details of the dream. I'm not going to go into the details here. But when I told him that, he stayed in the back. I mean, we were still back to back, and he said, Octavia, I'm going to initiate you and your husband. At that time, my husband and my son, my late husband, also my late son, we were there with Swami. He gave me a list of books to read. The Great Master, The Life of Holy Mother, and The Life of Vivekananda. That started my introduction to Sri Ramakrishna, who is such an integral part of my life now that it's like just naturally, it's always been there. Now, I stopped to think, this is a very personal thing to me, my relationship with Sri Ramakrishna. Do many of you here realize, if you're in my age bracket, that's closer to 90 than 50, that you're only 2 or 3 generations away from Sri Ramakrishna? I'm going to go on a little journey I wanted to go on with me now, because I started thinking in that way. Then I read somewhere, and I don't remember, I read a lot, so I can't attribute this to who it was, but someone who said, in the East, man in his development, mankind was looking inward to solve the mysteries of the universe. And was looking in the East, was looking inward. In the West, man was looking outward to solve the mysteries of the universe. So this got me thinking, and I started a little program on my own that I found interesting. I started looking at some timelines, and I said, so what was going on? What was going on in the East and the West simultaneously? So I started Googling, looking for and going through my library of books to find dates. I don't call it a timeline. I was looking at simultaneously what was happening. Now, I'm not going to go into all that I found there, but I found that in the years that Chaitanya was functioning, teaching, that was the time that Copernicus was teaching in the West. Copernicus looking out at the stars and letting mankind know you're not the center of the universe. You know, the sun does not revolve around you, you revolve around the sun with many other planets. Meantime, Chaitanya, during those same years, Copernicus was February 1483 to 1543. Chaitanya, February 1486 to 1543. So they were on Earth. Mankind was developing in knowledge, both inwardly and outwardly at the same time. I'm not going to go into all the others I found. Kepler, I wondered when the scientists, the Pythagoras, what name that I was not aware of, but I'm sure there were rishis in India developing knowledge at that time. But I'm going to step on ahead to Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna, at the time of his birth, February 1836. Now, I find that month February, anyone into astrology, if there's any significance to that, please let me know. But at the time of Sri Ramakrishna's advent and teaching on earth, so was Einstein for a period of that time. Now, while Einstein was developing his theories of relativity, that is the illusory nature of what we see, Ramakrishna was saying, the world is illusory. The only reality is Brahman. So I say those are the same things happening at the same time. Also, during the time of Sri Ramakrishna's time on earth developing, Faraday, the father of electricity, was there, developing all his theories on fields. I thought of that when I found that I read some, and I will say read somewhere because I read a lot, I don't remember the name of the book, that when Swamiji was in Chicago, that Tesla was there. And that Swami asked Tesla, can you come up with an equation that shows the unity of all the fields? And that Tesla was not able to do that, but at the time that Einstein passed away, on his table was his notes where he was working on that unity of all the fields. Now, what I saw in that, I told you I found many simultaneous dates, but what I look at in reading the works of Sri Ramakrishna and the words of Sri Ramakrishna, the works of Vivekananda, I came with what I call the great merger. First of all, I want to read these thoughts to you. And I don't remember where I got this. It was in one of the plays. I used to perform the Christmas plays at the temple in my younger days. I'm going to share this with you. Through an inscrutable law, East and West offer two fields of activity, one in the domain of spirit and the other in the domain of matter, for consummation of the ideal to which all humanity has been moving. The West has devoted itself to researches in the discovery of the nature of material things. The East, from time immemorial, has experimented in religion in order to learn the laws that rule the realm of spirit. This is the part that struck me. Now, this is not in the same book that I got that first phrase about who was looking inward and who was looking outward. Both ideals are necessary for the progress of humanity. Humanity's future rests on their cooperation and mutual understanding. Now, what I see in Swami Vivekananda coming to Chicago, and I don't forget reading somewhere the vision that he had when he was contemplating whether or not he should come here, that he had a vision of Ramakrishna in the ocean going toward the west, beckoning him. To me, that was the merger of these two fields, that inward and that outward, because what was said was that the East needs the technological advances and so forth of the West. The West needs the spiritual advancements of the East. So this was the merger of those two areas of knowledge developing along the same time. Now I'm going to skip a little further ahead to my grandmother. My grandmother was born in slavery. She was born 2 years before the amendment that abolished slavery. She was born in 1864. That was at the time that Totapuri was arriving at Dakshineshwar to teach Ramakrishna. So this was 28 years later. What I'm looking at is that my grandmother was on earth simultaneously with Sri Ramakrishna, learning from Totapuri. Now, I looked at the material similarities in my grandmother and Sri Ramakrishna, both under British rule, adapting coping strategies, if you will, to deal with that domination. I looked at the relative advancements of technology. My grandmother did not have electricity, they did not have running water. My grandmother went to the Pine Grove. Ramakrishna went to the Pine Grove. And I didn't understand that until I read that he always took a bucket of water with him. Then I understood, oh, the same thing my grandmother's going to the Pine Grove for. My grandmother was a sweet, I remember her. I was there with her. She loved me, she took care of me, she held me. I went and disturbed a hornet's nest that stung me. I ran to my grandmother, she dipped in the snuff she kept and rubbed it on that sting, and the pain went away. And I said, oh, so my grandmother's mouth was brown with, it was Garrett's sweet snuff, I remember. Sri Ramakrishna's mouth was red with betel nuts. Similarities. Okay? You might ask, what does all this mean? To me, it says that it brings Sri Ramakrishna into the realm of my reality. He's a human being, just as my grandmother was there, just as I could run to her for comfort. Sri Ramakrishna was there on earth. They have these things in common. The whole idea that it makes him not some amorphous entity out there on a cloud, but someone who's real to me. Now those material similarities I can speak for, but now let's skip a bit ahead and get into those are Sri Ramakrishna's human traits. Into his transcendental states, needless to say, I can't speak in depth on that, but I can, from what I have read, I can let you share some of my thoughts. Sri Ramakrishna, sense of humor. He could be a biting critic sometimes. And I was always amused in reading when some of the well-learned pundits would come to him, and he's talking about him, and I said, gee, he's talking about this man, the man's in the room. He's talking about his book learning and his ego as a result of his book learning. But he's teaching, okay? Sri Ramakrishna had some fears. I remember his fear at seeing a wandering monk who was realized apparently, but who was acting in a most uncomfortable way. And he said, I think he said to Mator at the time, does that mean that I'm going to be like a guru? Am I going to be that way? He had these fears. How he agonized over his broken arm. And this part would get me too. He's going to someone's house. Am I appropriately dressed? Will they like me? Will I pass there? Same concerns that we humans have. This brings him into a realm that I can relate to. He's relatable. Now, I started with a friend of mine. I don't know if many of you remember Bobby Maloney. He used to play the piano here at Christmas. I started with Bobby and a friend Sharon studying the gospel. So then we decided, oh, Swami Ishatmananda is doing the Panchamadeva. Let's skip ahead and get to where he is. So we started on Wednesday nights. I can't do it anymore. I don't know what happens with my technological skills. My computer acts up or something. But we noticed that we were reading along. I would take a turn, the next turn would be Bobby's, the next turn would be Sharon's turn to read. Then we noticed that Swami Ishatmananda stayed on one page. I remember it was in the area of 760 something. And we said, he's on that same page the whole session. Why is he on just that one page? Then it occurred to me later on. We were reading to say we had read. What Swami Ishatmananda was doing was explaining, talking about what it meant that Sri Ramakrishna was teaching. He was, and it reminds me of what M said that Sri Ramakrishna would often say to him when he's giving some of his profound lessons, that Sri Ramakrishna would turn to him and say, have you understood what I said? He said, yes. He says, now assimilate. This is what we realized that Swami was doing. He was reading, he was expounding upon, explaining, and giving us areas where we could relate to what Sri Ramakrishna was teaching. Now, I do, my friends and relatives know, don't call Octavia before 9 o'clock. That's the time I started spending a day in holy company. Sri Ramakrishna says, spend time in holy company. At that time, I keep a copy of the gospel. I have read it cover to cover, but I like to just flip through and just randomly go to a page. And that's my day with Sri Ramakrishna. That's my day in holy company. Thanks to M, I know who all is there, because M says he's sitting on the couch, he's in his room. Now I have had the good fortune to see that room, his bed, the long bed, then that little part on the end, that was his couch. When I saw it pristine, with the photograph of Sri Ramakrishna sitting on that couch. And that's where he would sit. And there would be maybe Garish Chandra Ghosh was there, Kishal Chandra Sin, the young Naran, Rakhal, Latu, and I would pick out which ones of those are going to be his later disciples. And because I keep that page turned back and go back and see who else there. The Mukherjee brothers, let's go back and see what's with them. This is how I spend my time. Okay. I live alone with a little puppy, so I have plenty of time to do this. And I would notice in Sri Ramakrishna's teachings, now he's sitting on a little couch, and they're all sitting there watching as he is dancing back and forth between, as he said, the Leela and the Nitya, between the absolute and the relative, and they're sitting there watching him. Then sometimes he will come down from the couch and sit on the floor with them. Now I ask you, imagine that if you will. You're sitting on the floor and here is God incarnate sitting on the floor with you. And I think the name was, if I remember, Prelude, one of the singers with the Brahma Samaj. If he was there, then there's going to be singing, Sri Ramakrishna's going to dance and go into Samadhi. This is how I spend my time in Holy Company. My day, as I said, anybody who knows me knows she's not going to answer the phone before 9. I'm with Sri Ramakrishna in Holy Company. Now, was I one of the women sitting behind that screen? I don't know. I don't know what I'm about in that life. But having been there, having seen that room, and with an imagination, I'm able to be there in Holy Company every morning with Sri Ramakrishna. Now, on that transcendental plane, there was a question that Sri Ramakrishna would ask. And in the gospel, as you notice, he repeats the same story. You'll see it repeated many times. That's because he's got a point to get across, and he uses that story to emphasize that point. But he asks this question, who am I? No, who are you? What am I? And what is your relationship to me? Now, I distinguish between that who and what. And I found something that was interesting in my reflecting on this. I was remembering when because I was at the temple and very close within the Hyde Park temple, always with Swami Ishatmananda. So when the American people would come, they would ask me things that they were not familiar with. And one lady said to me one day, I think I have a difficulty meditating on Sri Ramakrishna because I'm disturbed by his breast. Are you? And I remember saying, no, because when I meditate on him, I don't think of who he is. I think of what he is. Who, to me, is this physical, as I think Swami Vivekananda says, this conglomerate of particles. That is the who. The what, that spirit animating these particles. So I said, looking at Sri Ramakrishna, asking, who are you? What am I? And what is your relationship to me? Loaded question, something to really think about. I consider that in this vanaprastha stage of my life in which I'm existing now, that this is the question that I am trying to answer in reading every morning. And in many days, he's in and out of samadhi. Sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. Then there are people who come and they're looking. Hazra, the one whom he said was his gadfly, if you will. Hazra was there to kind of torment him sometimes. But he's in and out of samadhi several times. Can you imagine that? You're in the presence. These people sitting in that room in Lakshmaneshwar. And some I know came because they really wanted enlightenment. There were those who came to pick him apart, if you will, to find some fault, if you will, like who's this little man and devotee who has all this influence? So they wanted to sometimes tear him down. And the way he dealt with it, I always found very interesting and very amusing, because he had that sense of humor, and he could put people in their place so easily, and then say, did I offend you? Did what I say bother you? But there was a lesson he was teaching. Get over your ego, because you're a great learned person. You've read all those books. I remember Sri Ramakrishna saying, I haven't read the books, but I asked the mother to teach me everything that's in the Vedas, the Tantra, and yoga. And mother taught me all those things, so he didn't have to read books. I identified with him also because he said in school he was not good in math, and I always used to tell my friends, my mind cuts off when you give me figures. 2 and 2 is 22 in my book. How do you want to stack them? And I said, but he had that knowledge, and this is what he's telling us. So I spend my days, my mornings, in holy company. I'm there in my imagination. I'm there in that room. I saw that room. His bed, immaculate, still white, his photo there. And that, Swami, thank you for offering me this opportunity to reflect on all these things and to realize that he is, not he was, he is a vital part of who I am and what I am. And I am trying my best in this stage of my life to get to that, what he is. And with his guidance, watching his, listening to his teachings every day, I'm getting there. I was just talking to, I don't know if she's here, who told me, I tell you, I used to come to your house every 1st of January. When Swami Ishatmananda first came to Chicago, one family had him for Thanksgiving dinner, another had him for Christmas. I said, the only day left for me is January 1st. So for 20 years, on January 1st, in the shrine room in my home, we worshiped. And we have had, I've been blessed to have in that house, which is why I didn't sell it. My husband, my son passed away. I considered moving into a senior home. I said no. In this home, I had Swami Ishatmananda, who was very close to us, my husband and my son, Asheshananda, Nishreshananda. I've had many, many wonderful souls in that house, and that energy is there, and with that energy that is there, I'm still dealing with who I am, what he is, and how I relate to him, my relationship. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
For connecting service and sadhana so beautifully. I could imagine as you were sharing your stories, such beautiful and thoughtful reflections. I would like to request Shami please to grace us leading a collective devotional song.
Up here explain what is tapasya. It's a really wonderful thing. Now let us sing this. Aji premanande mon re gao, Ramakrishna naam. Aji premanande mon re gao. They're inviting, happily let us sing the name of God. Take the name of God. Aji premanande mon re gao. Ramakrishna naam. Gaho Ramakrishna naam. Japo Ramakrishna naam. Naam Sudha पाने रहो, मत अविराम, राम कृष्ण नाम, कामर पुकुर हलो, पूर्ण ब्रज धाम, सखागण लये खेले, लीलाय विराम. So comparing the Sri Krishna, he used to play the divine play, which is playing in that Brajadhama, and Sri Ramakrishna here in Kamar Pukur. Kamar Pukur holo, Purna Brajadham, Shakhagan loye khele, Leelaya viram, Janaman shobukure bhashe, Octavia was mentioning that she always, every time she goes to Dakshineshwar, sits in front of Sri Ramakrishna and gets Sri Ramakrishna's company. She enjoys every time. The same way, you have to transport our mind to that time. Janamana shomukure bhashe, Checho Vishutam, Ramakrishna Nam, Namo Namo Chandra Devi, Namo Namo Chandramani, Namo Khudiram, Kripamai Ma Janani, Lavo Pranam, Jai Ram Bati Ramati, Chandana Shaman, Amar Ma Jananir Janma Bhumi, Mohatirtha Sthan, Mayer Charone Sharana Nile, if you take the refuge at the feet of the Holy Mother, Mayer Charone Sharana Nile, Puri Manushkam, Ramakrishna Nam, Aji Premanande Monre Gaho, Ramakrishna Nam, Ramakrishna Nam.
Thank you, Shamiji. Our third speaker for today is Mr. Indranil Roy Chaudhary. Most recently serves as the Managing Director in the consulting practice at Ernst & Young. He actively supports non-profits and is engaged with the Ahan Foundation, advancing education, nutrition and skill development for underprivileged communities across religions and nationalities. A Chicago resident for 21 years, he lives with his wife and their 2 daughters. He received initiation from Swami Ishatmananda Maharaj in December 2024. May I invite Mr. Indranil Roy Chaudhary for sharing his thoughts.
I offer my pranam to Thakur, Ma, Sharadama, Swamiji, Vivekananda Swamiji, and I thank you, Guruji, for the opportunity. You know, while I was while I was sitting here along with all of you and listening to Octavia, it was mesmerizing. And it just, this is not in my prepared remarks. I was just listening to you, and you kind of just transported us to a different world through your experiences. I think that is what Thakur does, and that is what Thakur is capable of doing. And permit me for just repeating what you just said or shared with us. It's clear that you went through a bunch of personal losses, and despite that, you are who you are today. You seem extremely happy. You seem extremely content, and you are living a life full of satisfaction, joy, and bliss. And if there is any example of what Thakur can do to transform our lives, you are an example who's sitting with us right now. So, I'll get to my personal experience, not too much really, as I finish off. But I just wanted to take this opportunity today, and I was thinking about there is nothing really unknown about Thakur, especially about for all of you who are in many ways spiritual seekers, which is why you are here today. So you know pretty much everything that is there to be known about Thakur. But there were a few things that I wanted to talk about, which maybe are things slightly unknown about Thakur's phenomenal existence. He continues to exist, of course. This is somebody who never really left the small precincts of the temple garden in Dakshineshwar. Yet his spiritual consciousness basically has spanned now the entire universe. We speak of Ramakrishna, and affectionately we all call him Thakur. To call him a saint is accurate, but frankly it is an understatement. He was, like many have said, and Christopher Isherwood famously mentioned in his book, a phenomenon. If you look at, and if you go through the history of human thought, we have seen great intellects, great reformers, and great devotees. The world is full of them, we all know about them. But in Sri Ramakrishna, we witnessed a laboratory of spirituality where every path was not just tested, it was actually verified and synthesized. He himself did it. He did not depend on it, he did not read about it, he did not preach about it, but he actually experienced it. So over the next few minutes, I want to explore why the simple priest of Kali Thakur is not just a figure of the 19th century, but is an essential prophet for the 21st as well. How was he different? It's something that, if you think about it, this was a person, this was an enigma. He was radically different from tradition. He was radically different. If you look at just the history of saints from the Vedic rishis, right, from the onset of time, to all the medieval mystics that we have encountered and read about, most of them dedicated their lives towards one path, just one path. It could be a Vaishnava path, the path of devotion. It could be the path of bhakti, the path of devotion, the path of Vaishnava is the path of devotion. Somebody could have been an Advaitin who perfected the path of jnana. Right? We remember Shankaracharya, or many of the Advaitin saints who devoted their life, and it was fundamentally around jnana. And then, of course, a Christian mystic walked the path of Christ, and a Sufi the path of Islam. It's written right here on the top here. Sri Ramakrishna was radically different because of that, what is written here right there. He refused to stop at one. Thakur refused to stop at one because he was almost like a spiritual scientist, and he was not content with one hypothesis. He practiced Tantra, he practiced Vaishnavism, he realized the formless Brahman. When Totapuri came to him, he realized the formless Brahman of the Advaita Vedanta. But he did not stop there. He dressed as a Muslim. He lived the life of a devout Muslim and realized Allah. He immersed himself in the consciousness of Jesus Christ and realized the divine presence there too. His life was a declaration that religion is not a tribe, but it is a truth to be experienced, which is what he did. His famous proclamation, Jato Vat Tato Path, as many faiths, as many paths, was not an intellectual slogan. It was a verified spiritual fact. He was the first in the history, probably, to speak about the harmony of religions, not from a book, but from experience, direct experience. I think that was a radical differentiation from Thakur, from the saints that preceded him and followed him backwards. Thakur brought another concept. The next one that I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on is the distinction between Jnani and Vijnani. This whole concept of practical Vedanta that Swamiji has espoused and made it very popular. But the seeds were sown by Thakur. In traditional Vedanta, we are taught that the path of knowledge, Jnana, where the ultimate realization is brought by neti, 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 not this, not this, not this, right? Thakur himself has given the example of the onion, peyaj. We keep on just, peeling the onion, we are left with nothing. So that was from a Vedanta perspective, the Advaita Vedanta perspective, neti, neti. And the world is declared as Maya, as an illusion. And only the absolute Brahman is real. I think somebody mentioned that a little while back, Javadmitha Ramashanta, Jiva Ramaiva Na Apara. But Thakur basically actually took it to the next level. He introduced the concept of Vijnana, a richer, a much more comprehensive realization. He used a beautiful metaphor. He said, the Jnani, when he climbs the stairs to get to the roof of a building, he rejects the stairs as not being the roof. But the Vijnani, having reached the roof, realizes that the stairs are made of the same brick, the same mortar, and the same lime as the roof itself. So the Vijnani comes down the stairs and embraces the world not as an illusion, but as a dynamic manifestation of the divine, the Leela. So he made a distinction between the Maya, he did not reject it, but he brought in also the concept of Leela. That this is very much, this world that we live in is not really an illusion, it is a dynamic manifestation of the divine. This teaches us that the highest spiritual state does not require us to escape or despise the world, but to serve the divine presence within our families, within our communities. This brings us really to his philosophy, which we often hear as practical Vedanta, and like I mentioned, it was very popularized by Swamiji, but the seed was planted by Thakur. Traditionally, Vedanta was often seen as world negating. Maya meant the world is false, so one should retreat to the Himalayas. Thakur turned this on its head with a startling insight. One day, while discussing the tenet of compassion, he stopped himself. He said, "Compassion? Who are you to show compassion to others? No, not compassion for others, but service to man, recognizing him as God. That is where Shiva Jnane, Jiva Shiva." This is the cornerstone of practical Vedanta. If God is everywhere, then the human being standing in front of us is the most tangible manifestation of God. You do not help the poor. You worship God by serving the poor. This idea transforms spirituality from a passive, meditative state into an active social force. And it is this spiritual engine that powers this massive humanitarian work of the Ramakrishna Society and the Ramakrishna Mission today, that Swamiji here and hundreds and thousands of Swamijis across the globe are doing. That was planted, that seed was planted based on this. The third thing that I wanted to just spend one couple of minutes is Thakur's often unknown, perhaps overlooked contribution towards the Indian independence movement itself. It is little known about Thakur's contribution to the Indian independence movement when India was struggling to make itself free from the British. You might just wonder how a temple priest who had never really read even a newspaper contribute to the Indian freedom movement. Sri Ramakrishna was a battery that charged the revolutionaries. Thakur did this primarily through his creation, Swamiji Vivekananda. Without Thakur, without Ramakrishna Thakur, there is no Vivekananda. And without Vivekananda, the Indian awakening loses the roar that it got. But even directly, Thakur's influence was profound. At the time when British colonialism had convinced Indians that their culture was inferior, it was superstitious, Ramakrishna stood as a living validation of the ancient truth. He restored national pride. He showed that an Indian wearing a simple loincloth possessed the wisdom that Western rationalism could not touch. Many freedom fighters, particularly the revolutionaries in Bengal, carried the Gita in one hand and the teachings of Thakur and Vivekananda Swamiji in the other. He gave them the spiritual spine to face the gallows with a simple teaching that the Atma, the soul, is immortal. It cannot be cut by the sword or burnt by the fire. All of this, obviously, we all want Western validation. So, and the Westerners did validate. It is fascinating to note that this illiterate priest captured the imagination of the highest intellectuals of the West. Max Müller, the German Indologist, who was so moved by Ramakrishna's life that he wrote his biography, introducing him to the European Academy. Romarano, the French Nobel laureate, described Ramakrishna as the consummation of 2,000 years, he was writing at that point in time in the 1930s, of 2,000 years of the spiritual life of 300 million people. He called him the Symphony of India. Jotoma Totopon, Symphony of India. Later, writers like Christopher Isherwood, Aldous Huxley in the 20th century looked to Thakur not as a mythological figure, but as a modern proof that God realization is indeed possible. To the Western philosophical mind, wary of dogma, Ramakrishna Thakur offered a breath of fresh air, a religion based on verification, not just belief. How can I finish without referring to some of the things that Devashishta and Tivya talked about, Thakur's small little parables which had infinite wisdom and profoundness to it. One of Thakur's greatest gifts was his ability to explain the most complex philosophy through simple rustic parables. Today we are celebrating Thakur's Janmatithi. It's such a somber audience. People normally when they go to birthdays, they have a lot of fun. So you should smile. This is Thakur's Janmatithi we are celebrating. So Thakur talked about the salt doll, Nure Putul. He would explain the state of samadhi that some of us have spoke before. The absorption in God, samadhi, Vivekananda samadhi, samadhi of other forms. Using the story of a salt doll that went to measure the depth of the ocean. The moment it touched the water, you know what happens to the salt when it touches the water, it dissolves. It melted and became the ocean. It could not come back to report the depth of the ocean. That's how the individual ego melts into the divine if you are actually trying to practice, right? Then Thakur gave a very practical parable, a practical advice to all of us, and we face this in our daily lives almost every day. In English, in Bengali, it's much better, it comes out much better. So basically, Thakur says the hissing cobra in English, again, doesn't come out as well. But he told the story of a snake that was taught by a holy man not to bite. The holy man asked the snake, please don't bite. The villagers, seeing the snake was harmless, started to beat it, as you would expect. It happens all of us, all around us. The snake complained to the holy man. The holy man replied, I told you not to bite, but I didn't tell you not to hiss. This was his lesson on survival in the world. You must protect yourself and show the strength, hiss. But you must not harbor malice or injure others, bite. And the last one is a dyer's tub. If you remember in India, people dye their clothes to give that color. He compared God, the Almighty, to a dyer's tub. One customer comes and says, I want a red cloth. The dyer would put it in the red dye and it comes out red. Somebody else will come and say, I want a yellow one. The same thing that the person will do, will dye it in the yellow tub, in the yellow color, and it will come out yellow. The master is the same, but he takes the color, the form of as the devotee desires. So Vikar, Nirvikar, Saguna Brahman, Nirguna Brahman, it's all your choice. Finally, why do we need him today? Look around. Just look around ourselves. Just look around. Let's take a look all around ourselves every day. We live in a world which is torn by religious fanaticism and intolerance. We live in a society that is technology connected but spiritually lonely. Each one of us is perhaps experiencing the same thing. Sri Ramakrishna Thakur is an antidote of fanaticism. In a world fighting over which God is the right one, Thakur stands and says, do not fight over the cup. Please drink the water. His life proves that you can be a devout Christian, a faithful Muslim, or an Orthodox Hindu and still embrace the other. Because you have realized that the light is one, the light is just one. Furthermore, in our consumerist society, his life is a testament to the fact that happiness does not lie in accumulation. He found infinite bliss without a penny in his pocket. He reminds us that we are not biological robots designed to consume, but spiritual beings designed to realize the infinite. I once again thank Guruji for giving me this opportunity. My life is in the path where I was 2 years or 3 years back. After being initiated, I was an absolute agnostic. After being initiated by Guruji a couple of years back, I'm just on a path. I feel I'm a lot better. I feel I'm a lot at peace. I feel that I can actually try to understand. Every time I feel lonely, I come to this temple, this shrine every week. There's hardly anybody here. It's so great to see all of you assembled here today. But it is transforming. Thakur's presence, like Octavia mentioned, completely has the ability to transform our lives. And as Swamiji has said, we just need to realize who we are. We just simply need to stop looking at outside and try and see a little more inside. Mone, bone, kone. Thakur একসাথে তাই না ঠাকুরজি? মনে বনে কোণে যেখানেই পাবেন আমরা যদি ঠাকুরের কথা একটু ভাবি তাহলে অনেক 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 শান্তি পাওয়া যায়। থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
Thank you, Mr. Roy Chaudhary, for that motivational speech. It was really inspiring and thoughtful perspective that you shared. We will now move on to our final speaker for today, Mr. Swami Chatterjee. Born in Kolkata and a chartered accountant by profession, his most recent role has been Senior Vice President Finance in Sony Music and Entertainment. He enjoys travel, sports and music and received his initiation from Swami Ishatmananda in 1998. Kindly join me in welcoming Mr. Swami Chatterjee.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Joy Thakur, respected Swami Ishatmananda ji, and dear devotees. We have all gathered here this morning on this auspicious day as we are celebrating the 191st birth anniversary of our beloved, as we call him in Bengali, Praner Thakur, Sri Ramakrishna. I was thinking for a while as to what should I talk about this in front of this august audience. On this special day, about this special person who has touched each of our lives in so many different and unique ways. I felt that people gathered here are far more knowledgeable than me about Thakur and his teachings. So instead I thought of sharing my personal journey with Thakur and his influence in my life. To start with, I was born in Ramakrishna Mission Shiva Pratishthan, a hospital in Kolkata that used to be known then as Shishu Mongol. I feel so fortunate that my very arrival to this world was blessed by Thakur. My family was blessed too. My grandfather got his initiation or Diksha from none other than Swami Shivananda ji, who is also known as Mahapurush Maharaj, the second president of Ramakrishna Math and Mission. Maybe it was Thakur's wish that I got my initiation from Swami Ranganathananda ji, who got his initiation from and was a disciple of Mahapurush Maharaj. And even my daughter, who's in here, she got her initiation from Swami Ishatmananda at a very young age. So the tradition continues. I remember as a child, I used to see my grandfather singing Arati Shangit bhajans in front of the photograph of Sri Sri Thakur every evening, and I would see his face brighten up and tears coming through. I was all about 5-6 years old and used to wonder, who is this man in the photograph? And why is my grandfather, whom I used to call Dadu, behaving in this manner? One day I gathered courage and I did ask him, Dadu, who is he and why are you crying? He told me, he is our Bhagavan, part of our life and related to each one of us. He is our Poromattiyo, as we call him in Bengali, our closest relative and guiding force. He is and will always be with you all through your life. Next day, he bought me a book named Chotode Ramakrishna and asked me to read the book along with him. That was my start of my tryst with Thakur, knowing him, loving him, adoring him, feeling him to be part of my life and family. I gather strength from him, inspiration from him. I cling on to him at the most difficult times in my life and laugh out loud in the happiest of the days. Whenever I feel low, feel humiliated, I look at his photograph and find him ever smiling. I think, then who am I to feel such humiliated or feeling low when I realize how he was humiliated by ignorant and imprudent people? That gives me the strength to overcome such situations. I realize everything is momentary and the only permanent truth is my pride. As long as I have him within me, I have nothing to fear, nothing to worry about, as he's going to be taking care of it all. Today, I would like to talk about 3 things Thakur taught us as key takeaways for me and maybe for all of us, if you think it's right. The first thing that comes to my mind is his simplicity. He was not so-called formally educated. Of course, he did not need to be being avatar. Still, he spoke about the most complex subjects in the most simplistic manner. He taught us the deepest philosophy in the simplest possible manner, drawing examples from our daily lives. He brought the teachings from all of our greatest scriptures, like Vedas, Upanishad, Puranas, Gita, to the common people to be told in the language that they can understand and assimilate. What is important to keep in mind here is the socio-economic context of India under the colonial rule, then with common illiterate people struggling to make ends meet and being influenced by religious dogmatism. That is where he brought in fresh air of understanding and realization of the purpose of life as being told in our scriptures. He taught us the essence of Gita is tyagi, meaning one who has renounced worldly attachments. He explained that if you repeat the word Gita several times, it eventually sounds like that, which signifies the message to renounce everything and focus entirely on God. Can there ever be a better interpretation? Can there ever be a simpler or easier communication? I don't think so. Let me give an example from our life today. We all love our iPhones. Most of us can't stay away from it. But that's a different reason. I'm not getting into that. But why do you think we love it so much? It is because it is so simple to understand its features and how to operate it. Apple has kept the UX, as they call it technically, which means user experience, so simple that even a 5-year-old can operate it with basic intelligence. Thakur did the same 200 years back. For me, I always used it in my professional life. I worked for about 40 years in many multinational companies across the world. I found two things in common. The basic problem always remained the same. Across all the geographies, and everyone wanted a simple solution that helps. Whenever I used to work with my teams to develop any system or process, my only intent was to make it or keep it simple. And this teaching I got from none other than my Thakur. And it always worked. The second thing that appealed to me was his message of eternal love. He taught that pure, selfless love is the ultimate goal of human. He emphasized that love is the easiest path in realizing God. Focusing on devotion, longing, and seeing God in every being rather than ritualistic practices. True love seeks no return, rewards, or worldly desires. It is simply love for the divine sake. When love for God becomes intense, rituals are no longer necessary. Just as a fan is not needed when the natural wind flows from the south. He believed in seeing God in everything and serving all humanity with compassionate love. He maintained that the path of love is the simpler route to realization, often compared to a mother's love for her child. Thakur demonstrated unconditional love, offering his own spiritual energy to help individuals regardless of their background. Here I'm reminded of the relationship that Thakur shared with the noted leading Bengali playwright and bohemian Girish Chandra Ghosh. Their relationship, a classic story of redemption, saw Thakur transform skeptical alcoholic artist through unconditional love and patience, rather than demanding rigid discipline. Girish Ghosh was a notorious libertine and skeptic, yet Thakur recognized his intense sincerity. Despite Girish Ghosh often being drunk, abusive, or questioning Thakur in his presence, Thakur never rejected him. Ultimately, over time, Girish developed unwavering faith, becoming one of Thakur's closest devotees and writing extensively about his experiences. Girish's profound surrender and subsequent transformation from a self-proclaimed sinner to a devoted saint was only possible because of true love Thakur showered upon him. We live in a society today of family and friends wherein we face conflict of interest, differences in opinion, ego, jealousy, and other evils on a daily basis. This creates evil thoughts in our minds. We fight, we ask for bad things to happen for our adversaries. And even we pray to God for it to happen to others. This enmity does only one thing. It drifts us apart. Instead, if we overlook and let unconditional love prevail as shown by Thakur, this world will be such a different place. I'm no saint, and I did have my share of conflicts, feeling egoistic or having differences of opinion. However, as I matured, I realized they don't mean anything. Once again, I relied on Thakur and his teachings of eternal love. My outlook has changed as I understand now that there is a place for everyone in this world. Everyone should have his or her share of opinion, and I need to respect that. There is no point in being jealous by seeing something that something else possesses. Instead, one should look at, if you like something, then you should work for it even harder to get it. This is a long journey, and that not only requires the spirit of unconditional love, but also patience. That brings me to the third and the final takeaway for today, which is tolerance. Sri Ramakrishna taught us that all religions are valid paths to the same ultimate divine reality, advocating for active harmony. Jyotirmon Tadapat. As many faiths, so many paths. What's written here? He promoted profound tolerance by urging followers to see God in all beings, emphasizing that religious conflicts arise only when people forget the essence of spirituality. He established that all religions are equally valid, famously practicing Islam, Christianity, and various Hindu paths to experience their unity directly. He went beyond. Rather than mere tolerance, he advocated for acceptance and respect of different faiths. He advised that if one cannot get along with others, one should not become disturbed, but instead take refuge in God and meditate. He believed in divine presence within every individual, which naturally fosters a spirit of tolerance, compassion, and love. He advised firmness to protect oneself from wicked people while still avoiding active harm and harboring revenge. The story you talked about, the snake and the saint. Ramakrishna's life itself served as a model for tolerance, as he never spoke a harsh word against any person or faith. We all know Thakur's great example of a well or pond to explain the concept of religious tolerance and universality of truth. He compared different religions to different paths leading to the same destination, or different ghats, banks as we call it, of the same pond. People may draw water from one ghat, calling it jal, another from calling it pani, and a third calling it water. The substance, the divine, is the same, just as the water in the pond is the same, regardless of the name or the spot from which it is drawn. This metaphor illustrates that different religions are merely different ways of approaching the same Supreme God. This example teaches that the true tolerance goes beyond merely putting up with another faith. It implies an acceptance of all paths which, when followed sincerely, lead to the same ultimate reality. This I find so relevant in our world today, when we see so much of hatred, intolerance, and enmity amongst people in the past few years. We are getting divisive across caste, religion, ethnicity, societal status, etc., and becoming more inward-looking. And this is not only happening in India, but across the globe. We are seeing hatred and enmity resulting in wars with an intention of not only destruction of the resources, but clinical elimination of certain ethnic or religious groups of people. These days, we talk about DE&I so much. It stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. However, in reality, how much do we practice it? We start taking positions at the slightest provocation, forgetting we all originate from the same Supreme God. I think in such an environment, we need to go back to what Thakur said and keep reminding ourselves we are one from one source. To conclude, it is not possible to understand and absorb his Leela in one life. As Sri Ma describes Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa as the profound, enlightened mystic who, despite being a worshipper of Mother Kali, was guided into the depths of Advaita Vedanta by Totapuri. Ramakrishna is portrayed as an embodiment of spiritual wisdom, balancing ecstatic love for the Divine Mother and formless Brahma. Come, let us all pray together today and seek his blessings to be a good human being, and may this world be a better place to live in. Joy Thakur.
Thank you to all our speakers today. Maharaj is now offering tokens of appreciations to our speakers. Miss Octavia Harrison. Mr. Devashish Banerjee. Mr. Indrajit Rajchaudhary.
So we will have the Arati and the Pushpanjali. So when they are preparing, I will go and collect that Thakur's relics. Those who are, if you like, you can come and take the touch of that after the Pushpanjali.
Abhik, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Abhik, so please give your papers to him when you come out. Okay? Abhik has to collect everything. If one is missing, then you have
Can you give the microphone to?
When the Arati is going on, let us sing this bhajan. Please repeat after me. Jaya Ram Krishna Bolo Amar Mon. Jaya Ram Jaya Ram Krishna Bolo Amar Mon. Jaya Jugo Avatar Ji Purna Brahma Narayan Jugo Avatar Ji Purna Brahma Narayan Rama Krishna Bolo Amar Mon. Jaya Jivo Sukete Kato Dhori Naru Kale Avatar Barambar Avatar Jagat Ishar Barambar Jivo Dukete Kato Dhori Nar Kaleba Barambar Avatar Jagat Ishar Amon Madhur Jagan Emurati Yudakamini Kanchan Madhur Jagan Emurati Yudakamini Kanchan Rama Krishna Bolo Amar Mon. Jaya Jaya Rama Krishna Bolo Amar Mon. Jaya Purva Avatar Edo Kalam Se Jahan Sayug Se Dakshineshwari Ese Devar Purva Avatar Indo palam se Swayam se dakhine chale এসেছে এবার ওরে চক্ষু মেলেছে দেখো চক্ষু মেলেছে দেখো পাবে নব জীবন ওরে চক্ষু মেলেছে দেখো পাবে নব জীবন রাম কৃষ্ণ বলো আমার মন জয় জয় রাম কৃষ্ণ বলো আমার মন জয় রাম কৃষ্ণের কৃপায় বিবেকানন্দ বিলায় রাম কৃষ্ণের কৃপায় বিবেকানন্দ বিলায় ভক্তি মুক্তি বিনা মূল্যে কে নিবিড়ে আয় রাম কৃষ্ণের কৃপায় বিবেকানন্দ বিলায় ভক্তি মুক্তি বিনা মূল্যে কে নিবিড়ে আয় রামকৃষ্ণ বলে নাওরে তুলে যার যত হয় প্রয়োজন রামকৃষ্ণ বলে নাওরে তুলে যার যত হয় প্রয়োজন ধর্ম অর্থ কাম মোক্ষ যার যত হয় প্রয়োজন রামকৃষ্ণ বলে নাম তুলে যার যত হয় প্রয়োজন রামকৃষ্ণ বলে নাম তুলে যার যত হয় প্রয়োজন ধর্ম অর্থ কাম মোক্ষ যার যত হয় প্রয়োজন রামকৃষ্ণ বলো আমার মন জয় রামকৃষ্ণ বলো আমার মন জয় You recited very famous sutra composed by the direct disciple of Swami Vivekananda. So that is also there. You can read and chant upon me. Brahma Rupa Adi Madhya Isha Sarva Bhasakam Bhava Shatkahina Rupa Nitya Satya Advayam Krishna Ishwaram Tam Namami Deva Deva Rama Krishna Ishwaram Adi Deva Viharam Yurai Daitya Nashakam Sadhu Shishta Kamadam Mohitu Bharat Bharakam Swatma Rupa Tattvatam Yuge Yuge Jagadhitam Swatma Rupa Tattvatam Yuge Yuge Jagadhitam Tam Namami Deva Deva Rama Krishna Ishwaram Swam Namami Deva Deva Rama Krishna Ishwaram Sarva Bhuta Sarva Karma Sutra Bandha Paranam Jnana Karma Papa Punyam Taratamya Sadhanam Buddhi Vasa Sakshi Rupa Sarva Karma Bhasanam Buddhi Vasa Sakshi Rupa Sarva Karma Bhasanam Swam Namami Deva Deva Rama Krishna Ishwaram Swam Namami Deva Deva Rama Krishna Ishwaram Sarva Jiva Papanasha Karanam Bhaveshwaram Sri Kritancha Garbhavasa Dehadana Ishritam Yapi Tvam Sarirayasha Yena Titya Jivanam Tvam Namami Deva Deva Rama Krishna Ishwaram Sundarosya Kanchanancha Viyameyabhigatam Srishu Nitamatrirupa Shakti Bhava Bhavukam Jnana Bhakti Bhukti Mukti Shuddha Buddhi Dayakam Tam Namami Deva Deva Ramakrishna Ishwaram Tam Namami Deva Deva Ramakrishna Ishwaram Tam Namami Deva Deva Ramakrishna Ishwaram जय भगवान श्री राम कृष्ण देव की जय महामाई की जय स्वामी जी महाराज जी की जय भगवान बुद्ध देव की जय भगवान यीशु कृष्ण की जय श्री श्री गणेश की ओम शांति 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 This program actually scheduled on Sunday, but I thought that Saturday will be better. Why? As because Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna said, if you pray anything on Tuesday and Saturday, usually Mahakali grants those. I don't know why, but Mahakali. And Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is that Mahakali, so I thought, why not Saturday? Because Friday, then after that Saturday, you are all free. So pray to Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, whatever you like to pray, and say and remind him, you say, Saturday, whatever we ask. So we will pray, and this Pushpanjali we will offer. I will repeat 3 times. Why? Because sometimes people can't pronounce properly, can't hear properly. So 3 times. Om Oim Isha Shachandana Pushpu Patranjali Sangaya Sabaranaya Sasaktikaya Saparshadaya Sarvadeva Devi Sarupaya Sri Ramakrishnaya Bhosha. Again, Om Oim Om Oim Isha Shachandana Pushpapatranjali Sangaya Savaranaya Sasaktikaya Saparshadaya Sarvadeva Devi Sarupaya Sri Ramakrishnaya Bhosha. Om Oim Isha Vandana Pushpapatranjali Sangaya Savaranaya Sashaktikaya Saparshadaya Sarvadeva Devi Sarupaya Sri Ramakrishnaya Ghosha. Then Pranam Mantra. Pranam Mantra you have already previously done, so that we will do again. Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Vrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaham. Now, slowly you can come, offer your flower over here, and then please, first you allow our volunteers to go. Volunteers come quickly and quickly, and then they will be ready to serve you the prasad. But today's prasad you have to complete, because after that there is no program, so you have to complete the whole food. We cannot keep it. You have to complete today, and then maybe I have heard lot many sweets have come, so you have to finish that.